What up, world? Today we're going to be covering Mr. Colin Cowherd, host of his show on FS1 series, The Herd. Basically, today what he's going to cover is listing the 10 NBA players who are under the most pressure to win this NBA season, well, let alone the playoffs. We pretty much have 22 teams that are going to be returning to Orlando. We already know that 16 of those teams will go to the playoffs, and we pretty much know it's going to be 16 out of those 22 are going to be. So, kind of breaking it down, I'm going to cover about players and teams. Whenever it comes to players, not many come to mind. This has been more of a shuffle season to where we've had new teams come into place, and anyone really could win the championship. Most likely, the top three teams of the Bucks, Lakers, and Clippers, to be addressing pretty much for me who the top players to have the most pressure to win a championship. Of course, is number one, LeBron James. Even though the Lakers weren't the favorites in the beginning of the season by ESPN, they actually had them around 5th or 6th, which is pretty disrespectful. I've always had the Lakers to win the championship in 2020. Even back in 2019, I knew it was going to be to where somehow, some way, the Lakers and LeBron would be able to get another star. Luckily, that was David Griffin, the new general manager of the Pelicans, who orchestrated the trade. Anthony Davis for a bunch of the young cats, and Zion Williamson with with the first pick as well as the fourth from the Lakers. The fourth from the Lakers, but the first one from themselves. So kudos to them. Now you have LeBron James. The reason I'm giving him the most pressure is because he puts himself, and his fans put him, in the quote-unquote GOAT conversation, chasing Michael Jordan. And whenever it comes to chasing Michael Jordan, you have LeBron James up in the mix, trying to proclaim himself as the king as well as the GOAT. So if LeBron doesn't win this year, which is pretty much the widest open it's going to be for him in his rest of his career, because you have the Warriors who are injured, and as well as the Brooklyn Nets, and they'll be returning next season. At least one of those teams are making the conference finals, maybe even the finals for probably the Nets. But the door is open for LeBron. He has the most pressure for his legacy, but he has the most to gain as well if he wins this championship. So that's usually been every year when it comes to LeBron going in the finals. The most to lose as well as the most to win. Another player would probably be Anthony Davis. I don't think too much. If he doesn't win the chip, he's still chilling. He's cool. But there's going to be more pressure on him because to help bring LeBron a championship with the Lakers. AD can decide to leave in free agency as well as stay on the team. He's pretty much chilling. I think he's going to stay with the Lakers because he's nonchalant and cool being a second option rather than a first. I don't see him leaving the Lakers to be a number one option to like the Chicago Bulls, for example. He's going to be scrutinized too much to where he won't be able to lead that team to playoff success, just kind of with the Pelicans. So I foresee Anthony Davis to be on the Lakers for another 3 to 4 seasons with LeBron, and then he'll probably take over or may as well leave, how I see it. Any other players under pressure? I don't think. So kind of going down a couple of these teams. So the Lakers, AD, and LeBron, mostly LeBron. I don't really see Kawhi having pressure. He just came off of the Finals MVP championship. If you lose to the Lakers, I don't think it's a big deal. But if Kawhi loses to the Bucks with Yanis, there's going to be pressure on him on that side. But then with the Western Conference, I only see the Lakers or Clippers getting to the finals. I don't see the Nuggets. I don't see them as a threat. I don't see the Jazz, Thunder. I do not see the Rockets. I think that's a team you have to respect and keep your eye on, because whenever they connect and they click, you have a superstar in James Harden as well as a star in Russ. It's where those guys can go crazy on you, but they're not consistent, let alone together. I don't think there's any pressure for James Harden. I expect him to lose in the first or second round and that team to retool. Shift over to the Eastern Conference. Giannis, there's no pressure for him. The cat's around 25 years of age. He's very young in his process. I think if he doesn't get to the finals, then that's a detriment to him. I don't see any other Eastern Conference team, even let alone taking on the Bucks to beat them to the finals. I think there's pressure for Giannis to make the finals. But then if you're looking at the other teams like the Miami Heat, there's no pressure for Jimmy Butler if they lose in the first or second round. If you're looking at the Sixers, there may be a little more pressure on them to either get to the second round, let alone make the first round competitive. But, that team's a mess as it is. And if you're looking at the Celtics, of course, you have to get it past the first round. But if you have Jason Tatum, there's no pressure really on him. There's actually, higher to gain because a lot of cats have thought the Celtics could make to the second round, or not the second round, the conference finals against possibly the Bucks. So, he has more of a reward than risk ratio. I can't really think of any other players when it comes to guys who have the most pressure, but let's see what Mr. Cowherd says, and I'll give my take.
Thought with the league coming up, who are the 10 players in order that I think face the most pressure? And Joy and I will go through this. So here's my number 10. Ben Simmons. Okay, so the 76ers are seen as talented and underachieving. He is viewed as their second best player. Now, he just signed a contract, right? But there's a sense that he's as much a problem as Embiid. So I'd say Simmons needs to have a good playoff, and I've also wondered, is he focused? I'm not always sure he is. So I want to see him deliver. Next, Kemba Walker. Less pressure, but this is, in my opinion, a titled team. He has never won a playoff series, and he signed a massive contract, 4 years, $140 million. It's not massive pressure, but we know he's talented, but you got to win in the postseason, especially.
Real quickly, so with Ben Simmons, I mean, I'm fine with that. I mean, this list is kind of all over the place because it's around 10 players. I'm more thinking about just basically LeBron when it comes to the players with under the most pressure to win. With the Sixers, they're probably going to finish around the 6th seed, go against the Boston Celtics. If that's the case, I have the Celtics winning that series. I think it's going to be closer than people think it's going to be whenever you have Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid out there. But there'll still be pressure on those two because there's possible rumors of breaking them up whenever it comes to management. I don't think that's going to be the case at all. But the rumors are going to start to escalate. The media is going to try to split those guys out. That's what they like to do, cause drama, everything like that. With Kemba Walker, he's chilling. I know he was on the Bobcats and the Hornets. He made 2 playoff appearances, lost to LeBron back in, 2013 or 2014? Or I don't remember. But he played against LeBron as well as Dwayne Wade back in, what was Dwayne Wade, like 2017, 2018? Maybe even it was 2016. That's where the Heat beat the Hornets out of that. But yeah, when it comes to Kemba, he's a great point guard. There's really no pressure for him. He needs to be that second option right behind Jason Tatum to really excel that team. I think the Celtics will lose in the second round. If they make it to the conference finals, that'll be their peak. That'll be very impressive. But Kemba Walker is going to have to be consistent, which I trust him to be. With the Hornets, he did his thing as a number 1 option. He'll be a number 2 during this time. And you have cats like Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward, who can step it up. So the Celtics have a great foundation. Not much pressure for Kemba at all, unless they lose in the first round.
In Boston. LeBron. The pressure for LeBron.
Hey, cats, if you were watching First Things First with Nick Wright, he had LeBron James number 8 for the players under the most pressure to win. Listen, Cowherd has said LeBron's not the GOAT, so I'll let this slide. Nick Wright has said LeBron's the GOAT, so there's no pressure for him, and it won't, if he doesn't win the championship, he's still the GOAT. Let me see what Cowherd has to say about this, but no, LeBron should be number 1 under the most pressure to win, even though they're not quote-unquote the favorites, the Lakers. But when it comes to LeBron's quote-unquote debate about being the GOAT or in that class with Michael Jordan, this is the perfect opportunity for him and the Lakers to beat the Clippers and the Bucks. Those are the only 2 teams that they're going to give the Lakers some trouble or trouble at all. So, no, LeBron should be able to win this championship. No excuses when it comes to it.
Is simply the window's closing on titles. We know he's the second best or first best player ever. It's not that. It is, I think it's self-induced. It's LeBron saying, I'm in my 17th year. We don't have a lot of cap space. The cap may come down. It's not a big free agent class. This could be my best shot pressure. He's 8.
But how does that make him number 8, though? That doesn't make any sense. I'm really curious who's going to put Wright over LeBron James. But no, LeBron should be number 1 when it comes to this thing. This could be LeBron's best. And like I said before, the Nets are hurt with Kyrie and KD. The Warriors are hurt. And with Steph and Clay, KD left. You had Iggy get traded, retired Sean Livingston. So they're going to retool. The Warriors will be back to a top 3 team in the West. The Brooklyn Nets will be a top 2, top 3 team in the East. And they're going to be fighting in the conference finals, let alone. Right now, I think they'll make the finals next season. We'll see how they retool. But LeBron right now, this is his best shot. With AD with him, with the coronavirus and everything, we don't know who in the West is going to be playing. There's reports of Rudy Gobert who has the coronavirus still. Some cats like that. So This is a perfect pathway for LeBron, so I don't want to hear that he's number 8. No.
Is Embiid, who is the best player on Philadelphia in the eyes of most. There is a sense that if you're the best player, that you set the tempo of the locker room, and the locker room in Philadelphia is Embiid and Simmons don't get along. He is not always focused, kind of goofy, kind of a kid, but uber talented. So I think the pressure is more on Embiid than.
Yeah, Joel Embiid, I'll give it to him. He has some pressure. I think if he doesn't perform well or they lose in the first round, they'll look to move Brett Brown, let alone they could possibly look to trade package Joel Embiid away from that team. If they're going to trade one person from that team, it'll be Joel Embiid if they start to pull the trigger and get very nervous. So, yeah, Joel Embiid should, this season and next season really keep an eye out to where they could possibly trade him because he is around 26 years of age. He can be injury prone time to time. I'll give him credit. He's been very durable for these past couple of months, in the past couple of years, playing around at least like 60 games. And he's always performed and showed up in the playoffs. So I will give that to him with Joel Embiid. But when it comes to the Sixers, they really don't have a clear-cut leader. Joel Embiid is very immature, as well as he's not there yet in his game. He's an all-star player, but he's not consistent enough. He likes to go around on Twitter, kind of mess around. You can't really take him seriously. And when it comes to Ben Simmons, he's too nonchalant. I don't see him as a leader. I think he needs to step up and in games be more aggressive. But he likes to chill out, be that point guard role. I don't agree with that. I think Ben Simmons, they should move him to the 3, a point forward, and bring in like a Ricky Rubio or DJ Augustine as the point guard. I think that'll be better. But that's another conversation for another day. But the Sixers right now, they need to find some veteran leadership on that team.
Simmons, but it's clearly on Joel Embiid too. Giannis, he hasn't won a lot of playoff series, and this is almost organizational pressure. Well, last year was the first time he won a playoff series. He won 2. And last year, he got a little marginalized against Toronto and Kawhi. So no more 6'7" guys shutting down Giannis. He needs to come in, play well, and get through the Eastern Conference.
Listen, we've seen the story with LeBron, KD, and a bunch of these young cats back in their years. Giannis is in a good position. Listen, all he needs to worry about is making the finals, which I believe is going to happen. I don't see any Eastern Conference team going to take him down the way like the Raptors did 4 in a row last season with a star player and a winner like Kawhi Leonard. I don't see any other players' DNA in that age. I think at the Boston Celtics, it'll be a great matchup, but as well as no one's going to be able to guard and take down Giannis in that series, as well as Chris Middleton. He's going to have his way on that team, and Kemba Walker. I don't really see anyone really kind of locking down Kemba. I don't think Eric Bledsoe will be able to pretty much handle him the whole series. But within that, the Bucks will still have over the advantage and the edge. I'll give credit to the Raptors if they go against the Bucks again. They still have the same foundation, but Kawhi Leonard was the main piece to where they can get over the hump. I think the Bucks would actually beat the Raptors in 5 in that series. It'll be close games, but Giannis will take it to another level. So again, if he doesn't make the finals, that's pressure on Giannis if he doesn't, and that's a detriment, I think, to his legacy. Not too bad because he's still young, but there's no excuse why Giannis should not make the finals with the Milwaukee Bucks.
He's considered the Eastern Conference best player. You got to win the East. Paul George. I like Paul a lot. He's a very good two-way player, but he hasn't won a playoff series in 6 years, and he tends to be a guy who comes up under our expectations in big spots. And now you're playing with Kawhi, who over-delivers in big spots. So we're not going to blame Kawhi if things go.
Yeah, I've stated this in a couple of videos that Paul George is the X factor for the Clippers winning a championship, let alone beating the Lakers in the conference finals. Paul George has gone short a couple series, especially when he was a number 2 option to playing with Russ or Westbrook back in 2017, 2018. And Skip Bayless would call him, quote-unquote, George Paul. Playoff Pete when it comes to it. But when Paul George, whenever he was on the Pacers with Frank Vogel as the coach, they made the conference finals 2 times. They made a couple Eastern Conference semis, and then later on he lost in the first round. But he has the experience of being a number 1 option, playing underneath Kawhi Leonard, who just won his 2nd championship. Kawhi knows how to win. He knows how to do his thing. We saw the Kawhi effect with the Raptors, how we saw the Fred VanVleet, Serge Ibaka, Kyle Lowry. The whole team was focused and intact, and you could see that through their body language, especially how they played in the finals, how calm they were. Whenever the Raptors used to be pretty much a chaotic team and no leadership with DeMar DeRozan. But Kawhi has that presence. I expect Paul George to be fine. with him playing in the playoffs. But again, he'll be the X factor to where if they win the Western Conference Finals, let alone the finals.
Wrong. Russell Westbrook. First round exits last 3 years. And let's be honest, he is unraveled in the postseason. So the visual resume is he yells at fans, he yells at people. But he's only 4 is James Harden. Because James Harden's considered an all-time great player. And James Harden is the guy that Daryl Morey has said, I haven't given him enough players. So I think the pressure's on James Harden, and he's got a series of letdowns. I think a lot of times...
Listen, it wasn't really letdowns. You can make that one case of Game 6 against the Spurs in 2017, I believe. Yeah, it was 2017. Besides that, he's gone against the Warriors, one of the greatest teams of all times in dynasties. 4 out of 5 seasons. You can't blame him. It's terrible that Chris Paul got hurt at the end of Game 5, and they played without CP3 Game 6 and Game 7 and lost and blew the series. Harden, I think he has leadership. I think there's still more room to grow within that. I think he's very stubborn when it comes to telling Mike D'Antoni what he wants to do, and they're not playing a certain style Mike D'Antoni would like. I don't think Mike D'Antoni has the buttons and that push to get onto Harden. Harden pretty much does his own thing, runs his own James Harden system, which is a detriment to the Rockets. They could have been more successful, but there's no pressure for him. I already told people in a couple of videos, guys, the peak for the Rockets and Harden was in 2018. He won the finals, or he won the regular season MVP, won 65 games, got to the conference finals, Game 7 against the Warriors. He's never going to match that as the number one option ever again. The Rockets are going to go down. They'll go back and forth these couple of years to retool, losing the second round, first round, maybe even the conference finals. They're not getting to the finals, let alone winning another, let alone reaching that peak. So I don't really have pressure expectations for Harden. I think he's out in the first or second round.
We excuse Westbrook that he's just so hyper-athletic that he just wears out. With Harden, we don't always think he puts the effort in on the defensive end. Anthony Davis. They gave away a lot of good young players for Anthony Davis, and they didn't give away those good young players to not end up in the NBA championship round. AD has won 1 playoff series, and there's no excuses. He hadn't played in 3 months. So this is the healthiest he's been. This is the best teammate he's ever had. They gave up the Lonzo Ball, the Brandon Ingrams for him, the Josh Harts for him. And we know LeBron can win a title. You can't blame LeBron. He's won it with Wade. He's won it with Bosh. He's won it with Love. He's won it with Kyrie. Number 1, I think it's Chris Middleton.
Wait, what? Well, I'm not going to give my take. Let me hear him.
This is my theory. He's an all-star in the East. Milwaukee is a smaller non-free agent market. If Chris does not deliver, we know Yanis is going to give you 30 and 10. If Chris doesn't deliver, Giannis wakes up in the morning and all the big dogs like Golden State are like, we'll give you Stephen, Clay, and Draymond. I think Chris needs to have a very good postseason. I'm not asking for 30, but I'm asking for 23 and a absolute Paul George level 2 to Kawhi James.
Yeah, with the Bucks system, they can run around the Eastern Conference and get to the conference finals, let alone the finals easily. I think the Bucks, they're in a great position with their team, even though they did lose, what was the cat's name? The cat who's now on Malcolm Brogdon, who's now on the Pacers. They did lose him, but you brought in, Wesley Matthews, who's now starting with the team. You still have George Hill. Chris Middleton's going to do his thing. He can give you 23 easily. Listen, in the first round, they're going to go against either the Magic or Nets. They're going to wax either of those teams. Second round, they're probably going to go against the Miami Heat or the Pacers. It's most likely going to be the Heat. Listen, the Heat have had a great matchup when it comes to the Bucks in the regular season. There's no way that I expect the Heat to take it to another level when it comes to Giannis to stop him in the postseason. They're going to have great defensive schemes on him. Don't get me wrong on that. But whenever it comes to the offensive system, when it comes to Mike Budenholzer, I expect Giannis and Chris Middleton to win that series in 6. There's too many young cats with the Heat. Jimmy Butler's not going to propel that team over the Bucks. There's no way I see that. Conference finals, you're probably going to go against the Raptors, maybe the Celtics. I've had the Bucks going to beat the Raptors in 5 games easily. I think the Celtics are probably going to be a better matchup for the Celtics side because you do have star players and 4 players who can give you 20 points easily in that series. I don't see any of them containing or stopping Middleton. The Celtics, really need to work on that defensive side, especially with Middleton and Yanis for their wings. But no, I think Chris Middleton, he has somewhat of a pressure. I just don't see any East team stopping the Bucks getting to the finals. So that's why I don't put that much pressure on Middleton. He's not required to do much. Maybe in the late of games because Giannis is very suspect on closing games out as well as being clutch. And Middleton has a history of doing that. So I don't expect too much for Chris Middleton. I don't think that will be the point where they make a finals appearance or not.
So I think there's organizational pressure. Chris Middleton's got to give me 23 and a half a night. Every night. I know it sounds crazy, right? Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, basically, I have LeBron James pretty much as the only player. There's some little ones like Paul George. You can throw Chris Middleton in there, but not to a high extent. But overall, let's see how the playoffs shape up.